Hello there, Johannes Whiskey Lore. Time for another whiskey tasting. Smoky whiskey today and pocket square. I actually got a pocket square to sit in there and stay square. Usually they start sliding down in the pocket. And today I said I was going to use an excuse of why it was not showing up. But for some reason today, on the day I didn't expect it to stay up, it stays up. Anyway, these are the challenges of suit wearers. All right, doing a different style tasting today. Actually, in a way, I'm not doing a tasting as much as I'm giving some insights here. Are you a bourbon drinker? If you are, then I am about to turn you on to smoky whiskey. Now, you're going, okay, really? I mean, smoky whiskey, I hate Scotch, if that is your opinion, you're not alone. There's a lot of people that say that. But I went to an event on Friday night, and I was getting to serve Port Charlotte, heavily peated, 10-year, and also the Classic Lottie. And so what I would do is I would see people starting to want to wander by, because this was a bourbon event. And here I am trying to peddle Scotch. So I could have just spent my whole evening twiddling my thumbs, waiting for people to come by who really like Scotch and just, sold people who are already into it. But I like a challenge. And so my challenge was, I said, I am going to spend this evening turning bourbon drinkers into smoky Scotch drinkers. Why, you ask? I mean, because it doesn't seem like, people say, oh, bourbon, well, that's sweet, and Scotch isn't sweet. Well, that's not true. There are sweet Scotches. Cardew is a good example. That's like drinking, that is the ultimate sherry bomb. I had that Johnny Walker High Rye while I was at the event, just a sample of it, and it was almost like a jelly bean. It was so sweet. So it's not necessarily true that Scotch is not sweet and that bourbon is sweet. I've had bourbons that are somewhat dry. So, it happens. But this is the mindset of people generally. And this is the problem you run into with stereotypes, is that it can stop you from maybe discovering something that you will really, really like. So why do I think bourbon drinkers would warm to smoky Scotch? Well, my feeling is that if you picture somebody on a Saturday afternoon and they've got a bourbon in their hand, what are they probably doing? Summer afternoon, got a bourbon in their hand, maybe out grilling some hamburgers, got friends around, just enjoying your time, that sort of thing. And so if you are already attracted to the smell of that grill and those grilled meats, then you're already halfway to a smoky whiskey, because there you go. You're getting in those scents. So on this Friday night, when I was doing this tasting, I would urge people to come over. I would first ask them, do you drink Scotch? If they said no, I said, so you're a bourbon drinker. I have a challenge for you. I want to turn you on to smoky Scotch, because I think it is a perfect pairing for your palate. But before doing the tasting, I would also ask him another question if I felt like there was some doubt there. And I would say, okay, if you have, and this was something I learned while I was in Ireland, actually, because while I was in Ireland, I was talking about this idea that I had, this theory. I hadn't put the theory to a test yet, but I had been passing around this theory that bourbon drinkers would like smoky Scotch. And so someone there said, here's how I do it, because I had a different method. But they said, if you were taking somebody to dinner and said, okay, you can have the main course, and you can either have a dessert with it, or you can have a savory appetizer at the beginning. Which would you choose, the savory appetizer or the dessert? If they say dessert, you're going to have a really hard time bringing them into a savory drink. So, but as I asked that question, I was finding most bourbon drinkers were going, well, I'll go with the appetizer. I'd be happy with that. And so this notion that bourbon drinkers only like sweet, or that Americans only like sweet, which I've heard that as well, is not true. I don't like overly sweet things. I do not have a sweet tooth. I will enjoy sweet things, but I can't eat them, constantly. I don't even drink, soft drinks because, now it's like hummingbird water to me. It's just too sweet. I can't do it. So here are the results. I would invite people over. I would say, okay, go ahead and clear out of your mind any thought of sweet. This is a savory drink. Do not think of this as any other whiskey that you have ever had before. And then this is the cellar. Pour them a little bit. It's 10-year. I should let it sit for 10 minutes. I'm at a show. I can't do that. So you're going to have to take it straight out of the glass. Plus, these shows, they give you a glass and you keep refilling it with other stuff. So there's probably some residue of bourbon in there. So, this is a tough test. But everybody, I told them, rinse your glasses out well. And everybody except for the ones that put like bourbon cream in there, I think they got their glasses fairly clean. Now, glass is clean, bring it to your nose. I said, smell it first. Just take it in and think savory smoke when you take a breath in, and then take a taste after that. And the reason I tell them to stop and nose it first is because I know this whiskey, and I know that once this hits your nostrils, if you are a smoke fan, if you like barbecue notes, you're going to get it out of this glass. And what's cool about this whiskey, and so if you're going to try this with anybody, this is a great whiskey because what this is going to do is this is, $55, $60 a bottle. It's not going to set you back a ton of money in terms of, Scotch prices. It's a really great whiskey. It's 100 proof, actually, 50% ABV, but it doesn't drink that strong. And so it's a rich flavor. It's got a lot going on. But this one, the grain, the barley, actually does not come from Islay. So it doesn't have those iodine notes, the medicinal or seaweedy kind of profile. This comes from the Caledonian Forest, inland Scotland. So it's much more of a foresty kind of a smell. Autumn in the woods. That's the thing you're going to get out of this, with that little barbecue note that comes in with this. And so when they put it to their nose, it's like, ooh. And that's the reaction. And it has, there is also enough bourbon barrel influence on this whiskey, I believe, to give that little like toffee note. Just a hint. Definitely smoke there, and not an offensive smoke at all. Really nice quality smoke note. And then they taste. Feels so good on the tongue. Again, not an aggressive whiskey at all. I was having people taste this, and I would tell them the ABV afterwards, and they would be surprised. Very easy drinker from that standpoint. Flavorful, smoke is definitely there. It hangs with you, does not fade away. Just a quality whiskey all the way around. One of my favorites, like I said, I love the silkiness of this. To me, I call it silky smoke. And let me tell you, I did not have an exact number, but of all the people I probably served, 55, 60, 70 people, I don't know, something like that. Some coming back a second time. And I had maybe 3 people who said, ooh, I didn't like that. No, that's just not for me. And when I would press them, they'd be people that I didn't ask them the question about, would you take the appetizer or dessert? And they would say, well, I like sweet. At that point, if somebody tells you that they are into sweet, don't try to sell them. You can try to sell them on this all you want to. They're never going to get it. It's just never going to work for them. Okay. And it's not good to push people and say, you have to have this, no, you're wrong. This is something's wrong with you. Why do you not like this? Any of that kind of stuff is going to keep somebody from ever wanting to try a smoky whiskey again. So if you are somebody who is like, I think they'll come around to it at some point, just kind of back off, let them come to it in their own time. When they do, and there's some people with that personality that they have to accept it first. They can't be told to accept it. They have to accept it themselves. So, but I was actually surprised. I did not expect it to be that high of a rate. And I can tell you that, like I say, there were people who were coming by a second time to get another glass of it because there wasn't really another smoky whiskey like that. There's the Lagavulin 16 was in the room, but my opinion of Lagavulin 16 is that that's almost smoke on training wheels because it's got enough wood influence over 16 years that it really tamps the smoke down. The smoke is there. The smoke is nice, but it's kind of blended in with everything else. Whereas this one, the smoke is a little bit more out front. Are you a bourbon drinker? Have I convinced you that next time you're in a bar, I wouldn't invest in a whole bottle, although I feel pretty confident that you're going to end up liking it. But next time you're in a bar, see if they got that, get in the right mindset, and see if a smoky whiskey is for you. If you turn on to this, I promise you, after you really get used to this and you work through a bottle of it, you'll be ready to try some other smoky whiskeys, and then you'll be intrigued because you'll be like, okay, now I am used to this smoke. The first smoke I got into, or the first smoke I really tried was Ardbeg, and it was a little too ashy for me, but I hung with it. And then I found Corey Vrecken, and I ended up really liking that one. And then I started moving into other ones. I went to Lecheg 10, and I drank that for some time. Then I started trying to find sherry casks that mixed with the smoke. So, something like a Kilchoman Sonig. And then all of a sudden now, when I taste smoke in a whiskey, a little smoke in a sweeter whiskey, it actually is it's a pleasant experience. Whereas I think too many people try to drink like a Johnny Walker Black and then they go, I don't like the smoke, because the smoke is kind of interrupting the rest of their experience because they haven't gotten used to smoke yet. So don't dip your toe in the water, dive in, get into it. That is my advice. This is how bourbon drinkers can become smoky Scotch drinkers. And I'm telling you, once you find a love for smoky Scotches, it's hard to shake it. It will notch itself up in your rankings pretty quickly. Hope you enjoyed this. Hopefully it was informative. Let me know in the comments below. Are you a bourbon drinker who has avoided Scotch? Or have you had a Scotch and had a bad experience? What Scotches did you try? That sort of stuff. Give me a like if you enjoyed the video, and subscribe if you want to watch more. And until next time, cheers and Slainte.